What's going on, guys? I want to thank you for stopping by Clever's Multiverse. This channel is dedicated to everything that I love: comics, figures, movies, and games. If you're like me and you're into the same things that I'm into, then you're in the right place. And today, I want to talk about the state of the MCU, specifically Phase 5. And is superhero fatigue a thing? Or is it just a product of Kevin Feige diluting the pool to his liking and turning it into the Kevin Feige universe? Well, that's what I want to talk about today on Clever's Multiverse. Let's go. Okay, so we're going to start off in 2008, and let's look at this timeline really quick. Now, what do we have here, and what is the constant theme of what it is that we're seeing? What I'm seeing is 6 movies spread out amongst characters that we actually like, and we are witnessing the birth of the Avengers coming together. Even if they didn't say it off the first Iron Man, anybody with more than 2 brain cells can look and say to themselves, yo, I bet they are going to put together an Avengers team with the people that they have left. With the exception of that 2008 Hulk movie, everything was built on, and they moved forward with character progression. Now, if Edward Norton wouldn't have been such a hard to work with behind the scenes actor, they might have kept him. But even with that being said, they just made Hulk more of a supporting character. They slapped Mark Ruffalo in there and they kept it pushing. We acted like it never happened and everything was good. We even had 2 Iron Man movies in that first phase, damn near back to back. No one even cared and no one noticed. Now, let's fast forward to phase 2. Phase 2 piggybacks off of the phase 1 philosophy. They continue to build on the character development of the 3 main characters: Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. They each have their own follow-up sequels and they continued to build off of their core. Then they took their chance to introduce the Guardians of the Galaxy to us in their own standalone movie. The reason why I think that it was genius to go that route was because they gave us a whole team at once. So even if you were not familiar with the characters from the books, the chances were high that you would gravitate towards at least one of them, which is what happened to me actually. I want to throw in the fact really quick that there was never really any delay, and it didn't feel like this movie was just fluff or that it was preventing or holding me back from watching the movie that I really wanted to see, which at that time was, of course, Avengers Age of Ultron. Guardians actually complemented well, and it passed on all of us seamlessly. Then we got what we all wanted, which was Avengers Age of Ultron. Say what you want about the movie, but the point is that they stuck to the script. They stuck to the formula, and just before the end of phase 2, they snuck in Ant-Man, which we were gonna need for the first movie of phase 3. I mean, the comic head in me starts thinking, well, how could Ant-Man come before Ultron? I mean, Hank Pym made Ultron, so how could Hank Pym's invention come before him? But that's just me being stuck in the books, and I have to remember that this is the MCU. Keep in mind right here that although these first 2 phases were about character development and team building, that wasn't necessarily the end goal. They needed those things to happen in order to get to their real vision, which was Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet. But for the first couple of years, the story building was so good that we didn't even notice. For the most part, it was just an end credit thing that they had going on, which was kind of new too. Now it's the norm, but back then we wasn't used to that. They literally built Thanos off of 1 minute clips for like 2, maybe 3 years. Now let's go to phase 3, and this is where they start to stray from the original story development. Both of the first phases only had 6 movies. This is the first time that they almost doubled it to 11 movies within the phase. This is also the first time that Iron Man does not have his own solo movie. And this is the first time that they threw in 4 new characters. Just boom, out of nowhere. Now, let's take a look at these movies real quick. Phase 3 starts off really strong. Captain America, Civil War, come on. That's damn near an Avenger movie. Out the gate, we was doing great. Marvel was finally able to throw Spider-Man into the mix, and we got him right there with Civil War. Then comes Doctor Strange. I'm not mad at him, and I'm glad that he got a movie. He's definitely important to what we got going on. And right after him, we got Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Now, all of a sudden, Spider-Man is getting his own movie, and then we have Thor Ragnarok, which I thought was hilarious. So phase 3 already has Doctor Strange and Spider-Man just cutting their way to the front of the line. Now we're going to throw in Black Panther. Black Panther was an anomaly, and nobody expected it to do what it did, but it is what it is. We needed Wakanda to come into the mix, and in Endgame, he came through big time. So up until this time, every single character that has been introduced has or will have an instrumental part in the conclusion of what we now know to be the Infinity War slash Endgame saga. So how does Phase 3 end? Well, with Ant-Man and the Wasp. And for the most part, that was forgettable. This is also where there was no more underlying layer of plot lines. Before we had plots and subplots and character development all interweaved together, this movie started to feel standalone to me. Not that it's a bad thing, but this was the beginning of it all unwinding. This is where Kevin Feige started thinking that he was Drake and he could just drop a blank CD and go platinum. And yeah, he was wrong. From day one of Phase 1, they knew what they were going to work their way up to. Thanos. And they kept it so that everything that they threw at you would overpower that. Even though Thanos was the end goal, it had substance. So what comes after Ant-Man? You cannot be serious. Captain Marvel? Am I the only one that thought that Captain Marvel did not need her own standalone movie? I mean, I'm not a hater, but this was the first time that I thought to myself, why is she getting a movie? Her reception as the character was not great, and her little 2 minutes in Endgame does not justify her getting her own solo movie. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. I watched that movie for continuity purposes, but man, I felt myself aging. If I'm not mistaken, that was the first time that I watched the MCU movie outside of the theater, and I did not feel bad after that. So after Captain Marvel and Endgame, we finish off with Spider-Man, which is a good segue to Doctor Strange, but what comes between those two movies? Well, Black Widow somehow got her own solo movie, and although I love watching Scarlett Johansson in 4K in my living room, this movie was a total waste. COVID aside and being released on Disney Plus aside, this movie was totally unnecessary. The only reason I can see it for existing is to flesh out the remaining characters from the Thunderbolts, but we'll come back to that later. Then we have the Eternals, which I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like, why would you include that on the timeline at all? Totally in its own world, totally standalone, totally forgettable. Another waste of time that I'm never gonna get back. Black Panther 2 was next, but let's keep it real. Once Chadwick Boseman passed away, they should have seen the writing on the wall. Shuri was not gonna be able to carry that mantle. This is not the comic books, and she does not even look strong. The whole purpose of this movie was to introduce Namor and maybe the possibilities of mutants existing, but this, without question, should have been a Disney Plus show. Black Panther 2 should not have been on the Phase 4 movie schedule. I'm sorry, it just shouldn't have. The closest that we come to continuity in Phase 4 would be Doctor Strange 2. And to catch that, now we have to include the Disney Plus series because Doctor Strange 2 is playing off of WandaVision. Do you see a common theme here? The movies are not playing off of each other anymore. They are nothing like Phase 1, Phase 2, or Phase 3. Next, we have Shang-Chi, and although I really liked it, that's just really another standalone film that has nothing to do with anything else. And if characters are getting movies now just to introduce things like the 10 Rings, then that's what's wrong. I like the movie, but where does it fit in? So now we're going to close out Phase 4 with Thor, Love and Thunder, and Spider-Man. But where does that really leave us? We haven't accomplished anything. So let's rewind real quick. The first 3 phases of the MCU were all carefully sculpted in a way that each movie promoted character progression, and each movie moved us a little closer to the conclusion that we now know as Endgame. In my opinion, as soon as Endgame was over, they totally forgot their own formula. If they would have stayed true to what was working for them and Kang was truly the next big bad, then where's he been? What does Kang have to do with Black Widow? Absolutely nothing. What does he have to do with the Eternals or Black Panther 2 or Doctor Strange 2, Shang-Chi or Guardians 3? Where does he fit in? Because for the first 3 phases, it was mandatory that you watch everything. If you did not watch everything in continuity, then you would be lost and you would fall behind. You had to keep up. That's not the case no more. Let's add on to the fact that we have lost our starting lineup, and instead of moving forward with the characters that we actually want to see, Kevin Feige is pulling people from the practice squad that nobody cares about. So, Miss Marvel was the first Disney Plus series that I consciously skipped on. I kid you not. I watched the first 10, maybe 15 minutes, and I told myself, I can't. I can't do this. I'm going to just skip this and I'm going to just move forward to whatever they have next. That's what I did. And what was Marvel's response? Oh, they hate Miss Marvel and they hate Captain Marvel? Well, let's just slap them together and see how that goes. Then, when it doesn't work out and they have the lowest first day of any Marvel movie in existence, they want to say it's superhero fatigue. Nah, it is not superhero fatigue because unfortunately, Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, Jessica or Photon or whatever her name is, they are not superheroes to me. They are not. And I do not care how much you try to force feed me these characters. I am not biting. Miss Marvel's figure has always been a peg warmer. Nobody really cares about Captain Marvel, and Photon, let's be real, has never been in the conversation. And to top it off, they are all as equally uninteresting together as they are apart. It's just what it is. In my opinion, what happened is that Marvel or Kevin Feige or whoever started believing that they could just put anything out, and they're starting to learn the hard way that you just can't do that. I mean, these are dollar signs to you, but we live this. So again, what happened to Kang? If he is truly the next Thanos, then where has he been this whole phase? At this point, he's just a Disney Plus Loki villain, and with the exception of Ant-Man Quantumania, he's been totally absent from the past 7 films. So Phase 4 started something new. We no longer have the big bad that we were subconsciously reaching towards, but now also the character development is dead. They just want to throw whoever in front of our face and they expect us to embrace them no matter what. Like we don't have minds of our own, or like we don't know what it is that we like. Now, Disney Plus is moving in the same direction, but let's take a look at them really quick and see how they're doing it over there, because they are using Disney Plus to its best potential, but sparingly. So far, they have 11 Disney Plus shows that I know about. Let me know if I missed anything in the comments. We have Marvel's Agent Carter, Loki Season 1, WandaVision, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, Marvel's What If, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk Attorney at Law, Secret Invasion, and Loki Season 2. Secret Invasion could have been a hit or a miss depending on who you are. Some people didn't really care for it, but me, myself, I loved it. Am I the only one that was wondering what the hell Nick Fury was doing all of this time? I mean, I know that they showed us that he was out in space, but yeah, what was he doing? Why was he out there? What's going on? I think Secret Invasion answered a lot of questions that we have for Nick Fury, while at the same time bringing out things like the Super Skrulls and also showing us what life has been like for the Skrulls. This whole time, Talos had us believing that it's been peaches and cream, but that's not the case. I can't say that I disagree with Gravik. I really can't. Moon Knight, now that was different, but that was different in a way that I loved it. I loved the play on his mental disorder and his different personalities. That has never been shown before. It was also shown in a way that it didn't feel quote unquote woke or felt like they was trying to shove something down your throat. They gave us the opportunity to either embrace or reject it, and I think it worked out. This one right here was more of a standalone as well, but I was not mad. A plus to Marvel right here. Loki Season 1 and 2. I mean, what do I say? This is probably, hands down, the single greatest Disney Plus show ever. I mean, listen, I have never been a Loki fan, but honestly, he is probably the single greatest and most fleshed out character that the MCU has to offer, coming from a universe where the villains either die or disappear at the end of the movie. That's saying something. This guy has been around forever, and the fans love him more and more every time that we see him. With that being said, let's just move on to the rest, and let's just group all of these together. Agent Carter, Hawkeye, Miss Marvel, and She-Hulk are all forgettable and unnecessary. I could have done without all of these shows. Once again, they are all standalone and they have nothing to do with the bigger picture. The only reason that they exist is to bring forward even more characters that we couldn't care less about. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, in my opinion, only exist so that they could breathe life into this guy. Another way to mess up someone that I used to love, only so that they could throw him onto a team that both nobody cares about and nobody asks for. Then they get mad when nobody watches it. So is it that we're suffering from superhero fatigue and that's why everything is tanking? Or is it that they're just not giving us what we want? Let's go through the lineup of movies that we know are slated for release moving forward, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on how I think that movie is going to perform. The Marvels just came out on Friday, but I doubt that's going anywhere. Any one of those three does not have a serious fan base, and all three of them together, even less. That movie is gonna tank, and don't be surprised if you see it on Disney Plus before Christmas. What If Season 2? Now, I'm looking forward to that. Although it doesn't have anything to do with the MCU storyline, I would much rather wait and watch for that than a lot of the other things that they're trying to push right now. Echo is getting her own show, but come on, is anyone waiting on this? Really? She was a side character in Hawkeye, and now she's getting her own show? Like, who wrote to them and asked for this one? Let me take a wild guess. Kevin Feige. This is exactly what I mean. Nobody is checking for this show. I'll put it out there. Nobody has an Echo comic. Nobody has an Echo figure. Nobody cares about Echo. We just don't. Captain America 4. Okay, I'm gonna just put it out there. I really think that Cap should have given Bucky his shield. I am not too impressed with Falcon being the new Captain America. I know in the comics he had his little run as Captain America, but then again, so did Bucky. We can agree to disagree, but I just don't see this one moving the way the first three did. I just don't. I do, however, think that this is going to do a lot better than the Marvels. We can check back later and see if I'm right, but I don't think that it's going to do that bad. Although, once again, who asked for this? It sure wasn't me. Blade will be good too, but from what I'm hearing, it's been pushed back or canceled right now. Another great character in Purgatory. The saddest part is that he's already been done, and we know that there's an audience for him. We've also seen how he can be successful, so let's just take what works and move forward. We don't have to reinvent the wheel with this guy. The Thunderbolts. Now here is where the idea for Black Widow and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier start coming full circle. The only reason that they made those two shows is to take characters from those shows and put them together here. Once again, I will ask the question, who is checking for these dudes? Nobody cares about none of these guys. Nobody wants to watch a movie based on a roster of B and C list characters. I know I don't. I don't even care if you throw in the Red Hulk. I'm still good. Ironheart. Come on, guys. Help me out on this one. How many of y'all is really checking for this low-budget Iron Man? I don't even want this figure in my collection, let alone want to watch the movie. I have never in my life ever heard of anybody saying that they want to Ironheart anything. Am I lying? This is your go-to person? This is your character? This is who you want to see taking up a movie budget and pushing everything else back? This is what I mean right here. They're going to put out this trash, and when it doesn't do well, their answer is going to be to scale everything else back. And when I say everything else, what I mean is the movies that you really want to see. Now, the movies that I think would do really well are these right here. Deadpool 3 is going to pop. That's a no-brainer. We all actually want to see that movie. And who doesn't want to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine again? This movie would do good with no promotion. Ryan Reynolds could drop this overnight like a surprise Drake album, and this would sell. I wouldn't even be surprised if they start linking the X-Men in right here. This is something that I'm looking forward to, and I know a whole bunch of y'all are looking forward to this too. We want to see the Fantastic Four. We want to see Doctor Doom and the Galactus that goes with them too. Both of those villains right there can rival, if not top, Thanos, depending on how they bring them out. Plus, everybody wants to see them. Okay, so maybe the X-Men and the Fantastic Four are a little bit off and we're going to have to wait for those. I'll give you that. One thing for sure though, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I don't care what nobody says. The Netflix Daredevil show and the Netflix Punisher show are creme de la creme right there. I don't think I've seen anybody hating on those. Those two shows worked, and they are still two of my favorite Marvel shows ever. Charlie Cox was already in Spider-Man, and look how easy they brought him in. He didn't need to get his own show to get a cameo. Peter had legal troubles, and boom, here comes Matt Murdock. Let's get John Berthenol in there, and let's keep it pushing. If you ask me, Daredevil and Punisher would have been a better bet than slapping the Marvels together. Nobody cares about the Marvels, but now that I brung it up, how many of y'all would have went out this weekend to see a Charlie Cox Daredevil and John Berthenol Punisher movie? Think about it. So in conclusion, do I think that we're suffering from superhero fatigue? Nah, not at all. If you ask me, we're just suffering from Kevin Feige fatigue. And that's a fact. And with that being said, I want to thank you for stopping by Clever's Multiverse. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because that's the only way I'm going to know what's going on. Peace.